All right, welcome everyone to the Consistent Trader. This is your daily recap and forecast. And today, a lot happened, so we've got a lot to cover, and we've got some decent changes in our forecast looking forward. So, first off, let's take a look at the Euro US dollar as usual. Now, I did actually trade the US dollar Canadian dollar today a little bit too, so have some kind of interesting new stuff to share there. So first, let's zoom out real quick before we show you how the trades went. So on the hour chart for the Euro US dollar, as we said last video, we've broken out of this downward trend, and we are now currently in a consolidation slash getting ready for a breakout. Okay, so here's the consolidation box, but notice we have crossed over that line, and that's a fairly significant cross there. Right, we beat that previous high. Now we came right back into it, so it's not, it's not 100% breakout type thing. But if we look here, we've got a new trend line, a very significant trend line actually. So one thing with trend lines, it's a strong trend line if it hits it 3 times, okay? And the fact that this is hitting this trend line 3 times, 1 right here, that's the start, 2, 3, on the hour chart after these long swings and has bounced off each time, that's a fairly significant move right there and a fairly significant trend line. So it'll be really interesting to see over the next probably 2 days or so if we continue on that trend line or not. And essentially that brings us to our 2 options in terms of forecasts on what's going to happen. It could just stay in this consolidation box. It is possible still at this point, even though we are kind of starting to see this breakout of it. It is possible that it'll decide, we're going to stay in here. The bears are going to have a strong push, and we'll keep it in here. But it's really looking like a break with that new bottom trend line. The top hasn't formed a very, that's kind of a trend line, but we've got these 2 breaks over that. So the top isn't as sure. But that kind of makes sense, right? Because the bears, they just want to get out of the box, and they're just going to push where they can push. But when it comes to defense, the bulls, the bulls want to push where they can push. When it comes to defense, the bulls, this is the line they have to hold. They have to hold this line if they want to have a new trend going that direction. So we'll keep watching that, of course. With that in mind, we were buying this morning, right? Because we started buying right around here, but I knew we were close to that, and I was fairly confident in a bounce off that trend line. So you'll see that exactly here. We got some buys. Now, we did jump in a little early, had some losses there, and we waited a little bit until it came down to here before jumping in. We jumped in lightly. I was watching the 15-minute chart very closely. And the 15-minute chart was starting to really get overextended on the downside right around here, and by down here especially. So right here you can see I started jumping in. I had quite a few trades just right in this area here. I was ready for this double bottom right there, and for it to go like that. But it kept pushing, which is important to note. It pushed to that line. It wasn't at the line yet, so it pushed a couple more pips just to hit that line. And that's totally okay, Sure, I felt a little nervous, but you can see I added more buys, and just waited it out. It was a little slow pace, to be honest, but it came in our favor. We took some wins here, a couple losses here. When it came back down, we added a few more. I didn't get in super heavy. Frankly, I was waiting for it to get back down to here to get it super heavy, and it didn't, so I only put a few in here. Once it got to here, I took off a lot of losses here, and essentially why I did that is I just wanted to lower my risk. Pretty simple. You can see these losses are maybe 1 pip losses. They're very small losses. So I lowered my risk fairly significantly. I was ready for it to come back down, and if it had, I would have put on a big stack of trades down here. But it kept going, which fine by me. We hit a bunch of wins. Some of these wins, were 6 pip wins, 4 to 6 pip wins, which was pretty good. I did hold on to one of these trades. A couple of these had a 10 pip win there, and that was beautiful. you know, that was kind of our main money maker for the day, even though it took some time and we really didn't place that many trades in, you know, quite a 3 hours or so. So kind of slow paced, but still a good morning. Now the US dollar Canadian dollar was an interesting. The reason I traded this morning is we had a Canadian dollar inflation event this morning. I wanted to trade the event. So typically what I see in events, at least on the Euro US dollar, is it'll blast one direction and then within a minute, and typically within 10 seconds of the event. Okay, within 10 seconds it blasts one direction, either up or down. And after that first minute or two, it retraces. And it almost always retraces all the way down. And it typically actually goes the other direction. So here's what I was expecting. I was expecting a big jump and then a pull down all this way. Now, there were a few unusual things that happened here that didn't follow that, okay? First off, its initial jump, this one bar, that's a very long bar, that actually wasn't the initial, that wasn't the initial 10 seconds. The initial 10 seconds was just, it was really small. It was about to here. And then we saw a little pullback. And then we saw this fall through. So that was my first kind of sign of, okay, this isn't acting quite as it normally does. I do like to add, you can see I added trades here. I add buys and sells so that it hits profit on the initial blast. And then when it comes back, I close the other side at a small loss or at a small win. But, you know, we did hit some wins here. This first 5 pips. I should have had much higher targets, could have made a lot more money off of that. But I was holding on. The other kind of red flag here is it didn't normally, it does take normally 5 to 10 minutes to retrace. But, you know, at 5 minutes we were still here, right? 5 minutes we were there. At 10 minutes we were here. 15 minutes we were here. So that was making me nervous, to be honest. So I still sold through here. You can see all these sells. These were all winners, a lot of winners. But I was taking off these were big losses, relatively speaking. So I was taking off these losses throughout here as I was taking these winners. And I had some of these losses for quite a while, you can see. All the while taking winners. And my last loss that I finally took off was here. And this loss is all the way from over here. So it took quite a while to get there. We did have a stack of losses I took off here. Just these were small trades though. And all in all, unfortunately I basically broke even through all of this. But I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't upset. And the reason why is, well, sure, a more skilled trader would have made money selling through this. They would have known to get in a little aggressive here and there. A less skilled trader would have been deep in the red and potentially closed at a big loss somewhere around here. And my training and what I've learned over the last year and a half or so of every morning doing this is how to manage risk. So that when you are upside down and it doesn't go the way you expect it to go, that it typically does, you can still get out of that. If not on top, at least breaking even. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal. So I was pretty happy about this. Now, of course, it did actually come all the way down, right? So my initial analysis ended up being right in the really long run. But I was, you know, just after this much time had passed, I'd lost a lot of confidence in it. And it wasn't as, you know, if we go back to the Euro US dollar, this is a pretty clear trend line here, right? So I had a lot of confidence in here, while the US dollar Canadian dollar, there's more bullish you know, traits in this market that I didn't want to mess with. Plus, you know, it's a pair I'm not used to trading. So anyway, got out of that. That's what happened there. So let's look at the forecast just a little more. I know we already talked about it a little bit. On the Euro US dollar, this is a bullish. I'd give this a bullish stamp. You know, it's possible it's still just consolidation, but overall, I'd be buying this. And get ready for some big wins. If you're a long-term trader, we have huge opportunity for big wins, because really on the day chart, it could come back. It could most likely, what I would call is it'll eventually get back up to here. So if you're a long-term trader, that's not a bad trade to take, and take 300 pips on that. It's not a bad trade at all. I might think about it. I'm not a long-term trader, though, and I'm not good at long-term trading, and mostly emotionally. If I see a 50 pip win, it's hard to close that because I'm hoping for it to be 250, It's hard not to close it for me. I'm trading every morning, so. But if that's you, that's my call. That's my call on this. So thanks for joining. I live trade this every morning. Forgot to mention earlier. Live trade this every morning on Twitch from U.S. market open, so 8 a.m. Eastern, for about 2 hours to about 10 a.m. Eastern, depending on what's happening, how the charts go. So join us there if you want to watch all of this happen in action. We had a great morning this morning with a few viewers sharing ideas and learning from each other. And we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.